Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next edition of The Secret Life of Rabbis. I'm here with Rabbi Sam Taylor, Rabbi of Yavneh Shul Bourne-Wood. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Rabbi Fine. Thank you. Before we start, I just want to say kol hakavod to you, Rabbi Fine, for all the outstanding work that you do, not just in Stanmore, not just in Hasmonean, but all over the community. Your impact is fantastic through Bereshit, through Matmid, and I just want to say kol hakavod and thank you. And I'm just thrilled to be part of this program, and I'm thrilled to be having this conversation with you.
Very sweet. That's why we got you on, you should know. Thank you very much. All right, let's go background. Now, firstly, we were once on the same football team, but let's not discuss that fully. Title winning under 10s. Okay, background and why and how you became a rabbi.
So I'd say a couple of things. First of all, when I was in university, when I was studying management at City University, at the same time, I had a part-time job. I used to run the youth service in Stanmore Shul and used to run all the other youth activities that we did in the community for the youth. And I loved it. I loved my job as youth director of Stanmore Shul. I loved that position. I was basically the youth rabbi of the shul, and I didn't really enjoy my university career. I had a couple of internships. It wasn't really for me. And I realized at that time that really working in the community and working in the shul was what I really wanted to do. So I pretty much realized this at that time during those years.
Beautiful.
And also, the other thing that I would say as well is that I grew up in a household where the community was very much the center of our life. So yes, my mother's a barrister. Yes, my father's a solicitor, but that wasn't really the focus of the house. The focus of the house is very much the shul and love of the shul, love of the community. My mother very much involved with Northwest Island Jewish Day School. My father very much involved with the shul and other organizations. And it was very much a labor of love for them. And me and my siblings followed their example. So me going into community work, bearing in mind my background, probably more than that experience kind of makes sense as to why I wanted to get into Rabbonos.
Yes, I can say firsthand, totally true. Okay, great. So let's move on to your personal experience of Rabbonos. There are a couple of areas I'd like to touch upon. The first, let's just quickly ask your most inspiring or meaningful moment. Now that could be something you've done, or it could be that even lessons that you've received kind of from your rabbis and your teachers. What do you think your most inspiring moment was?
Without doubt, it was a lesson which I learned from my teacher, Rav Hershel Schechter, the Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshiva University in New York. So a few years ago, I was in New York. I went to see Rav Schechter, and I sat down with him and I asked him, I said, Rav Schechter, I said, Rebbe, I get very frustrated. I like seeing the fruits of my labor, right? I like doing things and seeing success. And sometimes as a rabbi, you see success and sometimes you don't. And I said to him, I said, can you give me any tips? Can you give me any advice? And he said to me, Sam, said, remember the story with Rabbi Akiva with the water that made a hole in the rock? He said, you have to be that source of water, just like the water constantly went on the rock and ultimately a hole was formed in the rock. You have to every single day make sure there's water going onto that rock. You have to make sure every day there's Torah, there's tefillah, there's chesed. And he said, and I guarantee you, if you do that, if you are that source of water, if you make sure every single day there is water, there are drops of water going onto the rock, then I guarantee you that you will see the fruits of your labor. And I found that very inspiring, and I think of that the whole time, especially when I'm struggling with this. I'm very much inspired and moved by this lesson from Rav Schechter.
Beautiful. Incremental and constant dripping. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Can I ask for a most embarrassing moment before we go to any other elements of inspiration?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there are many. I would say, I mean, I could pick a few, but I'd probably say this. So when I lived in America, I had a position in a shul, and I started in this position, and it was my first week. Everyone was being very friendly. And there was one man in the shul who was particularly friendly during the week. And then it came to Shabbos, and we were at the Kiddush. I was meeting all different members and I was speaking to people. And this man came over to me, and he was with a lady. And the lady, I thought she looked a bit older than him. So the man said, Rabbi, I want to introduce you to, I don't know, say her name was Rachel. Rabbi, I want to introduce you to Rachel. And I said to this, can call her Rachel. I said to her, Rachel, your son is wonderful. Your son has been so friendly. He's been so welcoming. I'm a massive, massive fan. And he said to me, Rabbi, he's my husband.
Oh my God.
I was terrible. I made that mistake once. I've never ever made it since. It was terrible.
Oh gosh, it's funny actually, because I found this, that, you know, sometimes it takes you a while when you move to a new community and you have to learn everyone's names, but you don't necessarily know ordinarily, like, quickly who they're married to, right?
Yeah, you got
Then you have to see the kiddish. You have to then like rejig. They're talking to them. They're married. They're not. All that kind of joining the dots.
It takes time, and just again, never make assumptions. You'll get there eventually. You'll connect the dots, but just don't make assumptions. It doesn't always end well. And that's just an example. Fair
point. Moving on to more inspiring vistas. What do you think, if you're learning a lesson from your members? What do you think is the biggest lesson you've learned?
In terms of a learning lesson from a member, I would say this. So there was a member of Western Marble Arch in my previous community. His name was Henry Noble. He sadly passed away a few years ago, and I used to go to visit him from time to time. He wasn't so well the last few years of his life, and I was speaking to him. We used to talk about shul stuff. He was a past president of the shul, and I once discussed the following problem that I was having. Basically, I didn't want to facilitate circus Judaism. What's circus Judaism? The idea is, when it comes to a circus, you set up a circus, you go to an empty car park, you set up a circus, people come, you take down the circus, then people don't come to the car park anymore. And similarly, when it comes to shul, okay, you put an event, people come, there's a special Shabbaton, people come, Shabbat UK, whatever it is, people come. And then when there's not a special event, right, when there's no circus, people don't come. And something I was struggling with. So I wanted to make sure there were people coming to shul and people involved the whole time, and not just when there was an event, not just when there was a circus. And so Henry said to me, Rabbi, you don't understand. The trick is, you got to make sure that when it comes to shul, when it comes to communal life, you got to make sure there's a circus the whole time, right? There's always acts, there's always shows, there's always a circus. And I found that very memorable. And again, it's something which I live by. It's a point which guides me. You always got to make sure, or I always try to make sure, that there's always a circus, and that way, if there's always a circus, there's always things going on, then please God, there'll always be people involved in shul life and in the community.
Beautiful, beautiful. Circus, a serious circus, but also fun circus. Not too much, not too much clowns. Not too many clowns.
The comparison between the shul and a circus is quite again, take it as you will, but absolutely, it's a great comparison.
I hear, yeah. I'm just thinking of like the precarious, kind of a wire we have to walk sometimes. Just taking the conversation a little bit further, in terms of the role of a rabbi in general, how do you think the role of a rabbi, do you feel, has changed over decades, generations, or even recently?
I mean, it's totally changed from, it used to be the rabbi used to pretty much do life cycle events. They call them hats, match, and dispatch, right? But then in the last few decades, it's changed a lot. Rabbis have got to be involved in programming, education, outreach. We've got to sometimes fundraising, counseling. We've got to be a strategic thinker. And obviously now when it comes to, in terms of post-coronavirus or the coronavirus era, we've got to be good at technology, social media. So yeah, the role of the rabbi has changed. Also, it's not just the rabbi, it's the rabbi and the rebbitzin. So it's totally changed. In some ways it's very daunting, but it's also very exciting because there's different ways in which you can connect with people. There's different opportunities. So yeah, it's totally changed. And every day's different.
Yep. Totally, I vouch for that.
Different, but at the same time, it's also a big privilege, because we're doing all these things. It's a massive privilege, and we do what we can. And please, with Hashem's help, we can utilize these skills and do these very different things and be Mekadei Shem Shemayim. So yeah, but the role definitely has changed, and that's just a few examples of how it's changed from the way I see it.
Right. I know you're a bit of an expert on chief rabbis, past chief rabbis, bit of a historical expert. I'm just thinking, even like the rabbis, the European rabbis of yesteryear, in Eastern Europe, etc. You can imagine them just kind of like having a peek at what rabbis do today. You know what I mean? They had two rabbis side by side on a screen, doing an interview. They just wouldn't, the rabbis of yesteryear just wouldn't, would be amazed to see the changes in rabbinic structure and things like that.
Right, so I think about that from time to time. And yes, it's great we're doing this, and it's great we're innovating and we're doing these programs. But at the same time, we can't forget about our bread and butter, which is the daily minyanim and the things that they used to do, such as the teaching Torah and the. So yes, it's great, but we've got to make sure we don't lose touch with our roots in terms of what the traditional rabbi used to do. So no, but I also think about that from time to time.
Yeah, 100%. You're right. Actually, the generation is kind of a generation that focuses a lot on luxuries, and sometimes we forget about the necessities. I think COVID has kind of brought that home a lot. Yeah, true. If I can say that to my own point. Right, Rabbi Taylor, I'm going to ask you one more question, if that's okay. It's very much loaded, but we're going to go for it anyway. Do you think that rabbis are undervalued in terms of their role, in terms of what they bring to the table, in terms of their potential impact? I'm not talking about your shul. I'm just saying in general, society.
Okay.
Do we value the rabbi enough?
This is what I would say, right? So in a regular profession, you're a teacher, you're an accountant, or whatever it is, right? The people who you work with and the people who manage you are all people that do that same profession, right? So say, for example, you're a teacher, right? So you're managed by more senior teachers, right? You work in an environment where everyone is a teacher. And the same thing goes for law, for accountancy, or for whatever it is. The difficulty in the rabbinate is that you're working with, or the challenge, if you like, right, is that you're working with people who just don't know what the job is, right? The lay leaders are amazing. They give of their time and they're wonderful people. They don't get paid and they're involved in the community because that's what they want to do. They're volunteers and it's wonderful. The challenge can sometimes be when it comes to volunteers, they don't know your job. They're not rabbis themselves. During the week, they're dentists, they're doctors, they're businessmen, they're accountants, they're whatever it is. And as a result, sometimes the rabbinate can be lonely. So it's important for rabbis to have peers. So it's important for me to, connect with people such as yourself and others. And I feel that's a challenge. It is a challenge. So, but on the other hand, when a rabbi does do a good job, and when a rabbi does reach out to people, when a rabbi is innovative, when the rabbi does his pastoral work and speaks nicely and reaches out to people, then it is appreciated. So, and if a person is committed, and if they are sincere, and if they do lead by example, I believe, yes, that the rabbi is appreciated, and there's a beautiful connection between the community and the rabbi. But again, the rabbinate can be a lonely place because you're working in an organization where other people and where the leadership and the people you report to don't always understand the job, which isn't normal in a quote unquote, in a regular profession. And I feel that, and I feel that that's a challenge of the position.
That's actually really well put. Someone else who I interviewed actually forgot who just said that rabbis don't become rabbis to make money. You know what I mean? So for this, these are our talents. These are what we believe in. This is our life. And a decision in the community that can really impact the community. That's our life. You know what I mean? That's our, I wouldn't say sense of fulfillment because we're not doing it for selfish reasons, but we became this because we believe in it. And therefore we want the best structure and best people around us because we feel this is, so to speak, our mission in life to be able to do that well. Yeah, I think you said it really, really nicely. Rabbi Taylor, I have to say thank you for your time. It's been phenomenal. It's great catching up as always. And look, we look forward to hearing continued success, loads of hatzlacha, and keep doing great things.
Oh, I find absolute privilege. Best of luck. And to you professionally and to your family and everything that you do, you're doing a great job. And just thank you. It's been a privilege to be part of this program. Thank you.
Mate. Thank you.